Stop listening to the garden gurus who tell you that you need a $500 cedar raised bed and a chemistry degree just to grow a salad. It's a flat-out lie. Most people treat their garden like a high-maintenance pet that's constantly looking for a reason to kick the bucket. They spend their weekends hauling bags of expensive soil, obsessing over pH levels, and hovering over tiny sprouts like a helicopter parent. And when those plants inevitably wither because life got busy, they give up and assume they just weren't born with a green thumb. But here's the secret they won't tell you. Nature is actually incredibly aggressive. It wants to grow. In fact, there are certain vegetables that are so stubborn, so resilient, and so desperate to feed you that you practically have to try to kill them. I've spent the last 20 years in the dirt, and I've seen it all. I've watched beginners spend thousands on fancy irrigation systems only to have their crops fail, while the guy next door throws some seeds in the dirt, ignores them for a month, and ends up with enough produce to feed the whole neighborhood. I'm Porter, and if there's one thing I've learned from 2 decades of trial and error, it's that gardening shouldn't be a part-time job. It should be a grocery store in your backyard that doesn't charge you a dime. If you're sweating through your shirt every afternoon just to get a single tomato, you're working way too hard. The truth is, most of the work we associate with gardening is just us getting in the way of what these plants already know how to do. We've been conditioned to think that more effort equals more reward. But in the garden, laziness is actually a superpower, if you know which plants to pick. Now, you might be thinking, Porter, I've killed a cactus. There's no way I can grow food. Stick with me, because I'm about to show you a list of immortal vegetables that will make you look like a master gardener, even if the only thing you've ever successfully grown is older. Before we get into the heavy hitters, do me a favor. If you're tired of the grocery store prices and you're ready to let nature do the heavy lifting for once, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community here at Smart Senior Secrets where we work smarter, not harder, and I don't want you missing out on the shortcuts I've spent 20 years digging up. Let's start with the stuff that grows so fast it's practically a magic trick. Think about the radish. Most people ignore the humble radish at the salad bar, but in the garden, this thing is a literal superhero. You poke a hole in the dirt, drop a seed, and in 25 days, less than a month, you're eating. It's the ultimate instant gratification crop for the lazy gardener. But it gets even better. Radishes are the canaries in the coal mine. They grow so quickly they actually loosen up the soil for everything else. You don't even need to till the ground. You just let the radish do the digging for you. Then there's the leaf lettuce. Forget those tight, temperamental heads of iceberg you see at the store. I'm talking about cut and come again greens. You scatter these seeds like you're feeding chickens, walk away, and a few weeks later, you've got a carpet of green. The best part? You don't even have to harvest the whole plant. You just haircut the top with some kitchen scissors, leave the roots alone, and the thing grows back in a week. It's an infinite salad bar that requires zero maintenance. Now, if you think cutting some lettuce with scissors is easy, wait until you see what happens when you stop trying to groom your garden and start letting it take over. We're moving into the heavy hitters, the crops that actually produce so much food, you'll be begging your neighbors to take some off your hands. Take green beans, for example. If you've ever bought a rubbery bag of fresh beans at the supermarket, you've been robbed. Homegrown beans are a completely different species. And the lazy secret? Go with bush beans. Unlike pole beans, which need you to play architect and build elaborate trellises or teepees, bush beans just sit there. They grow into a tidy little mound, pump out dozens of pods, and they're done. You don't have to train them. You don't have to tie them up. And they actually put nitrogen back into your soil. They're literally paying rent to live in your garden. But it gets even crazier when we talk about zucchini. Look, There's a reason people in small towns lock their car doors in August. It's not because of thieves. It's because neighbors will sneak a giant zucchini into your back seat if you leave it open. Zucchini is the monster of the garden. You put one seed in a mound of dirt, give it a splash of water, and then stay out of its way. It grows so fast you can almost hear it stretching. If you miss a day of harvesting, you'll go out the next morning and find a squash the size of a baseball bat. It's the ultimate lazy win because one plant can practically feed a family of 4 for a month. Now, you might be asking, what about the stuff that actually lasts? That's where potatoes come in. But forget the old school way of digging deep trenches and hilling up dirt until your back gives out. That's for people who like manual labor. I don't. Here's the pro tip. Use a grow bag or even an old 5-gallon bucket with some holes drilled in the bottom. Put 6 inches of dirt in, drop in a sprouted potato, and as the green leaves grow up, just throw more dirt or even straw on top of them. When the plant dies back in the fall, you don't dig. You just tip the bucket over. It's like a literal treasure hunt for carbs. No shovel required. And if you want something that looks fancy but requires zero effort, you have to talk about Swiss chard. This stuff is indestructible. Heat wave? Chard doesn't care. Surprise frost? Chard just laughs. It's a perpetual vegetable. You keep picking the outer leaves, and the center keeps growing. Plus, the stems come in bright neon reds, yellows, and pinks. It makes your garden look like a professional landscaped estate, but all you did was throw some seeds down and walk away to grab a cold lemonade. But let's get into the hidden, easy crops, the ones that grow underground while you're sleeping through the winter. Garlic is the king of lazy gardening. You plant it in the fall, right before the ground freezes. You tuck it in with a little mulch, and then you literally do nothing for 6 months. You go inside, watch the snow fall, eat some soup, and forget you even have a garden. Come spring, these green spears shoot out of the ground like magic. By midsummer, you've got organic garlic that tastes 10 times better than that bleached stuff from overseas. It's the only crop that rewards you for being completely absent. Then there are sugar snap peas. These are the candy of the garden. If you have a fence, any fence at all, just poke these seeds into the dirt at the base of it. They have these little hands called tendrils that grab onto the wire and pull themselves up. You don't have to prune them. You don't have to train them. You just show up 3 weeks later and start snacking right off the vine. Most of mine never even make it into the kitchen. They're the perfect gardener's tax for your walk around the yard. Now, stick with me, because I know what you're thinking. Porter, what about the tomatoes? Everyone says they're hard. The truth is, most people grow the wrong ones. They try to grow those giant, finicky beefsteaks that crack if you look at them wrong. If you're a lazy gardener, you grow cherry tomatoes, specifically the volunteers. I've had cherry tomato plants grow out of a crack in my driveway and produce more fruit than the ones I pampered in the raised beds. They are wild, they are aggressive, and they don't need a PhD to stay alive. They just need a sunny spot and a little neglect. Now, I'm going to tell you something most master gardeners are afraid to admit. The best way to have a high-yield garden is to be the most forgetful person on the block. We've covered the fast growers and the summer monsters. But if you really want to graduate to the lazy hall of fame, you need the forever crops. I'm talking about plants that you put in the ground once, literally one time, and they keep feeding you for 10, 15, even 20 years. Take asparagus, for instance. People think it's some highbrow, difficult vegetable. It's not. It's basically a weed with an ego. You plant the crowns. You wait a couple of seasons for them to get their feet under them, and then, every spring, for the next 2 decades, they just show up. No seeding, no tilling, no fuss. You just walk outside with a knife and start cutting your dinner. And then there's rhubarb. This thing is built like a tank. I've seen rhubarb plants survive in abandoned farmyards for 50 years without a single drop of human help. You can't kill it. It just sits there in the corner of your yard, growing giant leaves and tart stalks, waiting for you to remember it exists so you can make a pie. But if you want the ultimate zombie vegetable, look no further than Jerusalem artichokes or sunchokes. Warning, only plant these if you actually want them, because once they're in for life. They grow 6 feet tall, produce beautiful yellow flowers, and underground, they're busy making crunchy, nutty tubers. You dig up what you want to eat, and whatever tiny piece you miss will grow into a whole new plant next year. It's the closest thing to infinite food I've ever seen. Now, let's talk about the stuff that actually does better when the weather gets miserable. Kale and collard greens are the tough guys of the garden. While everyone else is rushing out to cover their plants because of a light frost, you can stay inside by the fire. A little bit of ice actually makes these greens taste sweeter. I've literally brushed snow off a kale plant in January to harvest leaves for a smoothie. That's not gardening. That's just cold weather grocery shopping. And don't even get me started on arugula. This stuff is so eager to grow it's almost annoying. It seeds itself. You plant it once, let a few plants go to flower, and the wind does the rest of the work for you. Next year, you'll have volunteer arugula popping up in your mulch, in your gravel path, everywhere. It's a free peppery salad that refuses to take no for an answer. But here's the secret weapon for the truly lazy: green onions. Next time you buy a bunch at the store, don't throw away the white ends with the little hairy roots. Stick them in a glass of water for 2 days, then poke them into the dirt. They'll regrow indefinitely. I haven't paid for a green onion in 3 years. It's like a glitch in the matrix. We can't forget the weedy herbs, either. Mint, oregano, and chives. If you plant these in the ground, they will take over your life. My advice: put them in a pot, forget to water them for a week, and they'll still look better than you do. They're indestructible, they smell amazing, and they make a 99-cent box of pasta taste like a $30 meal. To round out our 20, we have to talk about the shishito pepper. Most peppers are divas. They want the perfect temperature and the perfect amount of water. Not shishitos. They pump out dozens of peppers on tiny plants, and they don't care if you forget to fertilize them. Toss them in a pan with some salt and oil, and you're a gourmet chef with zero effort. So, here's the bottom line. The secret to a perfect garden isn't a bigger budget or more tools. It's mulch. Nature doesn't like being naked. If you leave bare dirt, nature will grow weeds to cover it. If you cover that dirt with 6 inches of wood chips or straw, you've just deleted 90% of your chores. No weeding, way less watering, and the soil builds itself while you're taking a nap. Gardening shouldn't be a struggle against nature. It should be a partnership. Pick the plants that actually want to be there, cover the ground, and let the sun do the heavy lifting. I've spent 20 years figuring out how to do less, and I'm telling you, the results are better this way. If you're ready to stop working for your garden and start making your garden work for you, I've got plenty more shortcuts where these came from.